Fixing America is simple. However, it will not be easy. We must get government out of the way. In every aspect of our lives, removing or severely limiting government intervention is the most surefire way to ensure an improvement in your circumstances. Government is almost never the answer to a problem. Rather, it is almost always the cause of the problem. Remove the cause, and the problem goes away. No government is not the answer either. I'm not saying that no government will solve the problem. I really don't believe that. We must have some level of government for the protection of our property and our person. But I do believe that on a federal, state, and local level, government services, regulations, and taxation could and should be drastically slashed in order to restore the freedoms that once existed in this country and made her the envy of the world. We must replace the Washington insiders. It's high time that we stopped re-electing the same Washington insiders to office year after year after year. Quit voting for the same individuals that have significant ties to Washington and to big business, who are completely in bed with each other. Please don't misunderstand me, though. I am not anti-business. In fact, I'm completely for business, but only for a completely free market enterprise with no government intervention whatsoever. Such a free market system will almost always eliminate any chance of huge multi-billion-dollar businesses who have the power to do just about anything they want. And the reason it's able to do that is because it prevents them from using the government as a club to beat down would-be competitors. It prevents them from ever becoming big enough to have that much influence because stiff competition always keeps things in check. Unless they happen to be keeping themselves in check by doing such a fantastic job of serving their customers and employees that there's no need nor any room for a competitor in their industry. But of course, in that case, you would want them to have influence because they recognize the value of serving others well. The character of such a business is infectious and will spread throughout the economy as other businesses see how successful they can become simply by serving their customers and employees well. But you've probably never seen a totally free market. Despite what many people seem to think and are constantly told about the American economy, the truth is we've not had a truly free market economy in this nation for probably well over 100 years. The larger government has gotten, and the more we have allowed her to tax and regulate business and the economy, the more we've created the very conditions that birth these mega businesses that run the country through lobbying and campaign donations and payoffs. Much of the legislation that is passed these days is either inspired by or directly influenced by the biggest businesses and organizations in this country to provide themselves special protections and loopholes, but enforce huge regulatory hardships on any small up-and-coming businesses that might compete with them. And of course, the result of that should be rather obvious. It's the perfect system, at least for the billionaires and politicians anyway. They continually scratch each other's back while the American people get fleeced. It is precisely those industries that are most heavily regulated in which we pay the highest prices for the lowest quality products and services. Any competition has been effectively squelched. The little guys who might ordinarily sprout up to compete never materialize because they simply cannot afford the high price and significant risk involved in keeping abreast of and actually adhering to all of the ridiculous government regulations that hang over their heads and, quite frankly, threaten to squash any of their potential profits. As a result, the jobs that would have been created by all of those new startups never materialize. Moreover, the big guys can continue to raise their prices, lower product quality, and reduce wages and benefits to their employees, all in an effort to increase their profit margin because they're well aware that their customers and employees have nowhere left to go There are no competing businesses in their industry, or at least very few of them. Free markets offer a better alternative, not only for consumers and employees, but also for smaller companies and those run in an ethical manner that won't use government intervention and corruption to increase their bottom line. Even in our overly regulated economy, we can still catch brief glimpses of the benefits of a truly free market system. Those industries which are left minimally regulated, of which there are fewer and fewer these days, admittedly, but those are often the ones that provide us with the best prices, the best quality products, and often the best wages and working conditions for employees. Because of free market competition, not in spite of it, competition sprouts up everywhere you look in those industries that are most minimally regulated by the government. And in those industries, there will always be someone who believes that they can do it better or cheaper than existing companies, and who's actually willing to give it a shot because the red tape that does exist is at least manageable. And as a result, newer and better and cheaper products are introduced to the market for your consumption, like your new iPhone or iPad or Android. Current established companies are then forced to innovate, become more efficient, provide better prices and better customer service and or employee working conditions in order to maintain their market share and maintain decent profit margins against all of these competing companies. If they don't, their customers and employees will simply emigrate to these newer startups and their profits would quickly dry up. Consumers win. You win. So, reality or fantasyland? Where do you want to live? Do you want to live in reality, or do you want to continue to play in this fantasy land where we pretend that free markets have caused all of our current problems and so look to even more government regulation to solve them? Are you willing to accept the premise that any government intervention in the free market will always result in a less efficient system that leaves customers and employees in a compromised position? Do you understand that this is the very thing that politicians thrive on, because they can always say that the reason for your hardship is that the current regulations didn't go far enough? More is necessary, thereby increasing their power position even further. Or will you continue to blame capitalism, which is a term used to describe the very same economic structure as the phrase free market? They are two different terms for exactly the same type of economy. But our perception has been perverted. Many of us think that capitalism is the problem, mainly because we don't actually know what capitalism is, and we don't realize that the system we currently live under is not really capitalistic at all. Blaming capitalism for our current situation is like blaming the sun for the fact that you can't see very well at night. The issue has absolutely nothing to do with the sun. In fact, it is the absence of sunlight, with the exception of a little bit that reflects off of the moon, which causes your current problem of limited sight. Once the sun returns in the morning to provide direct, unimpeded sunlight, you'll once again be able to see clearly. So it is with free market capitalism. What we see now is only a dim reflection of what once was a truly free market, and therefore we see only a dim reflection of the benefits of a free market, while unfortunately experiencing the very tangible effects of what a lack of free markets can do to an economy and to a country. Where will you live? Living in Fantasyland is what leads you to Greece's current fate, a nation in default, a shambles, and we are well on our way, folks. In fact, if it wasn't for the favored status that the U.S. has had for so many years because of our former superpower status, we would probably be in much worse shape than Greece is already. Fortunately for us, our formerly free markets created a nation that was the envy of the world, and which has given us a short window of undeserved lenience with regard to our skyrocketing debt, poor economic performance, and relatively dim future forecast if we continue down the current path. But we have an opportunity to return to reality and begin to deal with our nation's problems in a logical way, one that is based on freedom, liberty, and the free market principles that originally made her great. Like I said, simple, but not easy. The idea is simple. Get government out of the way. Implementation is a bit more difficult. First, it means that we need the right people in Washington, both in the presidency and in the Congress, and we're going to need to win by a landslide. We need freedom lovers running for all offices, and the freedom lovers who aren't running better be voting and convincing others to get out and vote as well. This election cannot be close. It needs to be a tsunami of freedom lovers all coming together with one single purpose: to destroy any remnant of governmental tyranny in this country. We need to return to constitutional principles, to cut out every unconstitutional tax, law, regulation, and government agency that is stifling this nation and extinguishing American exceptionalism. It's time to quit playing footsies with the statists who believe that government is the answer to every social, political, and economic ill, and that all we need is to milk more money from the rich deadbeats that are living off the hard work of others. Big business is not the problem. Big government is the problem that created big business. Don't focus on correcting the negative side effects of the cancer that is big government. Focus on the cancer itself and cut it out. Get rid of big government, and free market competition will force big business back to more ethical business practices and will open the door for small to mid-sized businesses to flourish again, creating millions of jobs and restoring America to her former glory.